Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm discussing Rocko's Modern Life Static Cling with special guest Sylvie. Welcome, Sylvie.
Hi, Allison. Thank you for having me today.
So excited to have you on. It's crazy how I reached out to you so long ago, and now finally it aired, and finally it's here after all this time, after it was shelved for a year. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's like I didn't even think it was going to happen after a point. So when they finally announced the August release, I was like, what?
Right? Oh my gosh. Because there was all executive changes with Nickelodeon, whatever it was, but it was meant to be on Netflix, clearly.
Absolutely. I
So
think
it's
Netflix
awesome.
was definitely the proper home for it, as opposed to Nickelodeon.
Yeah, definitely. So, first off, before we get into the special itself, I'm actually curious to know what your initial reaction was when you found out that Rocko's was getting a special, because this was first announced literally 3 years ago, August 2016.
Well, when I first found out about it, yeah, I think I found out around the same time as the Hey Arnold Jungle movie. I think I think they announced the Hey Arnold movie 2015, and then they released a trailer for both Hey Arnold and Rocko in 2016. And I remember after seeing both trailers, I actually had a much stronger, visceral, positive reaction with the Rocko trailer as opposed to the Hey Arnold one. Because I went in, at first when I heard the news that they were bringing it back, I'm like, why? Because as much as I gush about Hey Arnold, I've gone on record saying that the Rocko's Modern Life, I think, is one of Nickelodeon's perfect Nicktoons. I think it had the perfect run. It had the solid 5 seasons. It was funny. It was irreverent. It hit all the buttons of what a Nicktoon was in the 90s. And I thought, you know what? They don't need to bring this show back. I went in with negative feelings hearing they were going to bring it back, but once I saw that trailer, man, it was like it never left. They didn't miss a beat, and that's why I knew this was going to be something special. So I was on board as soon as I saw the trailer for it.
Nice. I agree. When I first found out the news, I was surprised. I was like, oh, Rocko's Modern Life? I wouldn't consider that would need a reboot, like you just said, because it was so of its era, but it was always so topical, so irreverent, so clever and smart. Just definitely, for me, a top 5 favorite Nicktoon. It's a really excellent show. Definitely one of those shows that you appreciate when you're older, for sure. And I agree, just watching it, too, definitely absolutely did not miss a beat with the animation, the humor, voice acting, everything about it. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was, and even as much time had passed, with the voice actors, you really couldn't tell any sort of change in any of the characters' voices, like the voice of Rocko, the voice of Heifer, Filbert, the big heads, everything. It still sounded fresh. It didn't sound changed with the ravages of age or anything.
Right. I agree, because then for me, I feel like it would have taken me out of it a little bit if they sounded different, but everyone sounded, yeah, I agree, to me exactly the same, which is
on point. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it really is, because for them, over 20 years since the series ended in 96. So, yeah. So let's kind of get into it, where it opens with them up in space. So that was a continuity with the finale, which was technically, because the show just kind of ended, but sort of the technical series finale of Rocko's with Future Schlock, when they just blast off into space in Rocko's house. That was a clever way to bring it back, since they were the show itself having been gone 20 years, and then the characters, they're just up in space, still existing, but that's what's fantastic too, just these timeless, ageless cartoon characters. The fact that, it's been 20 years, and yet, even though all this time has passed, it still feels the same. They don't age, obviously.
Yeah, that time vacuum, it makes sense too, because they don't have any of the technology to really learn about or find out about all the changes that's happening in O-Town and on Earth.
Right.
So when it goes back, it's just they even still have old technology. They don't have DVDs. They don't have streaming.
Yeah.
They have when they're going to watch the Fatheads, they have the VHS tape. And I don't know if you had any, but
I did.
it was
Did
orange.
you?
because that's how Nickelodeon packaged their VHS tapes. So I like the attention to detail there.
I loved that too. Did you have some? I had Rugrats episodes, the VHS tapes. Loved those.
So when I was growing up in the 90s, I had two of my younger siblings were still of Nick Jr. age. So we had a ton of Blue's Clues tapes. So we had like a whole library of orange VHS, like you wouldn't believe. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like,
that's awesome.
I knew.
Yeah, right. And like the 3 episodes, the orange VHS tape, just so real. So it's just awesome. That was a cute little nod.
I got kind of triggered when I saw the 3 episode thing, because
right?
Well, it brought me to mind again back in the 90s. Anime used to be like, it wasn't as prevalent as it was now. You couldn't just go on and watch streaming. Like my brothers could do when they got older. I was obsessed with finding out about Ranma in the 90s. So I went to this alternative video store, Suncoast, and I bought volume 1 of Ranma, just 2 episodes for $33. Like that was basically all my birthday money.
Oh, wow. See, now that's it. I mean, that's so obsolete now because now we have streaming. Like kids growing up now, they'll never know the joy of just the VHS tape and just watching the same 3 episodes over and over. That's it. You get what you get. Even DVDs too, that's obsolete now pretty much. It's just insane.
Physical
now everything's
media,
limitless at your hands with the internet. That's it. But then right off the bat with Rocko, we get when he says, "Isn't it great how some things never change? My favorite show with my favorite friends." And then when they're watching the tape, and then it just... I love the classic bit with Rocko's when sometimes objects randomly come to life. And then with this, when we have the VCR spitting out the tape, and then the tape itself spitting it out. Just all those little animation gags. That was... I feel like I missed all that stuff, like kind of like the slapstick and stuff. I feel like that's not as prevalent nowadays in current cartoons. But that was so big in this show specifically too, and a lot of 90s cartoons really.
Yeah, like the episode with the Suckle-matic, that giant evil they had the machines act like when Rocko's old machine died. It's like I was like puking and like gagging like an actual dying.
So I loved that. That brought me right back. I was like, oh, classic Rocko's. I loved that. I really did. Also the moment his car comes to life. There's so many just random. It's interesting when the objects come to life.
I missed that.
Yeah, I agree. Oh my gosh. So then when they find the button, and then I do love Heifer and Filbert arguing. That just felt like, classic banter too with Tom Kenny and Mr. Lawrence. And that's funny too because they play SpongeBob and Plankton and SpongeBob SquarePants, but them as these characters, there's just something that I missed that too, just like that chemistry, whatever you want to call it, with those characters.
Yeah, it's interesting that they've been sort of on and off working together for 20 years, like Mr. Lawrence and Tom Kenny. And at first I'm like, wow, Filbert's really just like ragging on Heifer, but then I realized, they have technically been living together for 2 decades, so they would be like a
right? Like, oh god,
squabbling couple at that point.
Yeah, absolutely, that's so true. See, Filbert, I don't know he's my favorite character. I just love Filbert. He's just, oh my gosh, so neurotic and stuff, but he's my favorite character. I do love Rocko too, though, of course, but...
I love them all. I love them. Like, they're such classic characters.
They really are, yeah. And then when they blast down into O-Town, and it's just... They're very much not, as Rocko says, we're not in the 90s anymore, and then all the updates with the 21st century... So that was actually all in the trailer, though, which was really cool to see all that.
Yeah, they pulled that directly, which surprised me, but it still fit, and I still loved seeing it a second go around. Their spoof of like Starbucks and energy drinks and 3D printing and gritty reboots. Like it was on point.
And then so many great little callbacks here and there too. I loved the recycle guy still singing that recycle song. What mound of trash, whatever. He's just still belting it out. I loved that. That was cute. Oh my gosh, yeah. And then just all the updates. I actually noticed watching it a second time a couple other things, like with the signs and with the stores. There was artisan plungers and there was overpriced donuts. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I caught that. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, I was like, oh, that works. Like all unnecessary things. That's very much present day.
Absolutely.
And then when Mrs. Bighead shows up again and she's so happy to see Rocko. And then poor Rocko. So Heifer and Filbert are just so excited about these new changes, and then Rocko is just the opposite, not happy about this at all.
He's resistant. He's seeing all like the negative sides and negative aspects of it, and just having a tough time embracing it.
Yeah, and then thus he's seeking comfort, looking for the fatheads again. But I guess to him, I don't know. Just the fact that too many changes for him, I guess, really.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's like a Rip Van Winkle scenario where he essentially metaphorically was sleeping for not 100 years, but still long enough where it's like the future.
That's true.
It would look like a futuristic world as told by someone from the 90s. Like, how do I say it? It's like, it's the future, but it's probably a different future than what we would have envisioned in the 90s, extrapolating 20 years. Like
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. But I do like that when he's flipping through the channels, and then of course there's that same stupid commercial, the Bunomatic thing. I just burst out laughing with that. I was like, oh my god, that's still that same thing.
Yeah, it's crazy they'd still have that product and no fatheads. I think
true,
one big kind of plot hole is if this is the future, why can't he just like stream it or try to find it online?
That's an excellent point. My thought exactly. I mean, you would think he's just desperate for a Fathead special, and yet he could just go back and watch old episodes. I guess he's. So that's interesting too. We can get into that too with reboot culture. How it's like you want something new but old. Since it's like you want it to be close, but then ironically, this special did just that. It's like capturing the spirit of the original series, and yet it felt very much of this era now in the 21st century, but it just did it really well.
They definitely put a lens to its viewers. Yeah.
Yeah, being so meta. And so then also we got Ed Bighead, still at Conglommo, and then just goes bankrupt just like that. I mean, that was funny too. Oh gosh. Just like, oh well, now he's I mean, that's his criticism maybe too, but I guess it's relevant, how things just happen really, really quickly. It's like, well, now you're going to lose your house, and that's it. The future of the town is at stake. But there you go, the high stakes, so.
That was drastic, yeah. It was
right? Yeah, it's just like, all right. And now, just the only way to save it is with a Fathead special, sure.
Why not?
It works,
just go with it.
Right?
Sells toys, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, see, there you go. More meta humor, too, with just the animation industry. And then you got those, that Mr. Dupet guy, his boss, that was always so gross with him. Like, oh my gosh.
I forgot that he picked his nose. Like, I was like,
yeah,
ugh.
I know, I was like cringing at that. I was like, oh my god, stop. Just no. But then those Chameleon brothers, when they're like, oh, we can make the Fathead special. And I loved that meta line too about, oh, well, it's just, we can do it cheaper, make a passionless project with just the computers, forget about hiring the original creator. I mean,
and then
that was good too.
Create this awful like CGI garbage mess.
And then there was a lot of, so when they find out they're getting a Fathead special, and then Rocko's on the news, I loved like the news crawl jokes too. Those were clever. Like catching some of those.
I liked, what I caught more was like the ticker tape, the stock market thing on the side, and it had like the business names for like three letter like business name codes, and one of them was Joe, which I think for Joe Murray. Yeah. So that one caught my eye more than anything else.
That was clever for sure too. But oh yeah, so one of the jokes was, that wasn't technically a reboot, but the sign says reboot, states pedantic jerk on the internet. Oh my gosh. That yeah, that was one of the little news that was the second time watching, I picked up on that. And so then it worked too that Filbert would just obviously embrace technology just like that, and he's doing his streaming, his Fish Sticks 96.
I love that name.
On OTube. Yeah, that's just fantastic. I loved that. And then he just picks up where he left off. He's like, I reunited with my lovely wife. He's just so happy to just be back. Like, no time has passed. That was really cute.
Yeah, I'm glad they addressed it, because I'm like, he's been gone for 20 years. He didn't even get to see his children grow up. Like, how are they going to broach that? Kids. Yeah, right? And the wife's just like, Dr. Hutchins just like, hey, like just her same old chipper, happy self. It was cute. Just letting it slide.
With old Filbert. Yeah, this is great. Oh my gosh. Oh, and also what was hilarious was seeing Heifer's grandpa's ghost. I was like, oh my lord. So these characters, they didn't all live. I mean, his grandpa's ghost.
Yeah,
He's just there.
I mean that. I guess that makes sense. As he was old and decrepit by the '90s, they pulled a Donkey Kong 3 on him, and I guess or Donkey Kong 3, Donkey Kong 64, whichever one killed off the grandma, like the old nice cranky Kong.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that. Huh.
Yeah, like old Donkey Kong. There was like Donkey Diddy, Cranky Kong, and there was like a Grandma Kong. I don't remember her name, but I guess she wasn't important, so they killed her off and made her a ghost in Donkey Kong 64.
Oh gosh.
So it felt like that. It's like that tracks. That actually tracks. Yeah, that's around the time of the movie when Dr. Hutchinson and Heifer's grandpa came. At that point, I realized. If you're sitting down and watching this with no context and had never seen an episode of Rocko's Modern Life, you would have had no idea what was going on. Because you'd have to have that understanding of that's his wife, that's Heifer was raised by wolves, and you'd have to know that history of the series. Otherwise, you'd be like, what's going on? Why is all this happening?
That's true. Yes, that's why, like, as fans, then we appreciate all those jokes more. It's just good, yeah. And that's so random. It's like, when he's saying, oh, Filbert, Grandpa possessed another lawn gnome. I was like, oh my god, jeez. And then here goes Grandpa, just, gosh, causing mischief. But then, so then Rocko and, oh wait, actually another joke I just want to mention, that this actually got the biggest laugh out of me. When Spunky is on the laptop, you see his little heart eyes, and then you see he's watching 10 hours of Mops. Oh my god, that was so hilarious to me. A callback to the episode when he fell in love with a mop. Oh my god.
And it's so hilarious. It's so on point too, right? Because they have those ridiculous YouTube videos of just like 9 hours of the same 5-second clip over and over. It's like,
yeah, like just stretched out. I know, why? And then they have like millions of views, which is insane. I don't know, it's just so bizarre.
Well, it's like, I think the pinnacle of that, I think there was like a 72 hour, I want to say 72 to 90 hour thing. You know that really stupid meme that was going on YouTube where it's like, it's a theme song, but every time this is said in the theme song, something else shows.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So someone did that with like one show, and it's like it's a theme song, but every time this word said, another theme song's played, and every time that word said, and it just went into this like hole. And then when you click the video, it was like 90 hours long. I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but that was just like, what a waste of space and time and just energy. Like, someone had to make that when you think about it.
Yeah, it's true. Oh my god. Well, this is ridiculous internet culture. Just fantastic, though. Oh my god.
Maddening.
Yeah, oh my god. Alright, so then they set out to find Ralph Bighead to see if he'll reboot the Fatheads. And then they're just flying around on the drone, and then they end up in the desert. And then when Heifer's like, oh, you see that? Like, the dancing pizza? It's like, no, not the Mirage. Like, he sees it too. Filbert likes that. I was like, so dumb. Oh, gosh. But also I liked the little... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt. I wanted to loop back to the... when they were searching for... Ralph, before they went to the desert, they were asking all these different places around the world if they had seen Ralph. And I love, like, you were mentioning the recycle guy from the one episode. They did a throwback also to the elves from the North Pole in the Christmas episode.
Oh, yeah.
And the sad clown and the crying,
the
sad clown and an iron lung.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Also, the sausage in that other episode, too, with Heifer with the sausage club. That, too. Oh, my gosh. So what I was going to say was with Filbert in the desert when he just says, I'm sweating, I'm hot, I'm nauseous. That got a smile out of me. I was like, yep, I'm nauseous. Love that.
There's a catchphrase.
With, when they were kids and when Rocko was pushing Filbert on the swing, little baby Filbert, so cute.
Love that.
But so then with the ice cream truck conveniently that just shows up in the middle of the desert, that's just fantastic too. And then of course it's none other than Ralph. But it turns out that it's not Ralph Bighead, it's now Rachel Bighead. What was your reaction to that?
So first of all, I shouldn't have looked anything up online. Like I wasn't even looking for Rocko. Like I knew it was coming out on the Friday. And all I did was Google Nick, and this is how fast things travel, especially if it's on Netflix. It was already spoiled for me before I got the chance to see it.
Me too, actually. Me too.
I was
literally
so
like a few days before.
But like when I did see it, I'm like, yes, like this is so like on point and topical with with Rocko's
Yeah.
Modern Life to cover a topic like this. And I think they handled it spectacularly. I instantly loved Rachel Bighead. I was like, oh my god, that makes sense. It's smart, and it's a transformation of the character that they also refer back to in their own meta episode, with saying things can come back, but they also change. They touch upon that later on when Rocko sees the new fatheads. But like I love the character. I love that they still kept Joe Murray's voice. I always loved this like kind of like deep deadpan voice of Rebecca.
Yeah, because so opposite of the characters, and then just very soothing voice too.
Yeah.
And just works with the character.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, like you said, it's in line with the overall theme of this special of accepting change and how things don't stay the same. And now as Rachel, she's comfortable and she's happy at who she is now. That's so lovely and wonderful, always a positive message. And I loved their reaction. They were just smiled and saying, that's cool, that's awesome. I loved that too. We need more just positivity like that in general. It's just great seeing representation in children's animation of the transgender community. So that was wonderful.
Absolutely. It was perfect. It was perfectly handled in the special. I have nothing but praise for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how with Rachel, she's saying, why would I bring back the fatheads? But then what changes her mind is when Rocko says that your parents will lose their house. And then in line too with nostalgia, ironically though, that for Rachel, when she looks back on her childhood and she has those fond memories with her parents, then she decides, okay, I'll do it for my parents. That was really sweet too. Yeah.
I like that.
But then it's sad though when Mr. Bighead sees her and then he's saying, I have no daughter. Like, poor Rachel. That was heartbreaking to see. But in line with Ed Bighead, just this curmudgeon.
It's an amazing 20-year callback to like the first appearance of Rebecca, née Ralph, a Bighead, when she decided she didn't want to be a cartoonist anymore, and Ed's like, I have no son. So it loops back again, and once Ed had accepted that he had a son, now he can't accept that his son had changed, and I have no daughter. So I love how they loop that back around. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I loved that too. I loved also the joke too, where he's like, I can't accept all this, and then Heifer's just like, change? Anybody got to break a 5? That was just so stupid, but I loved that. Oh my gosh. But I loved that Bev was just so accepting immediately and just saying, Ed, I wish you'd be more open-minded. Rachel must be so much happier and comfortable with herself. And then she's like, oh, I can even give her these shoes. That was just so cute too.
Yeah, not missing a beat. Like, gotta love Bev. Like, she's always been Rachel's biggest proponent, like biggest fan, and I'm glad to see that she just took it all in stride.
Yeah, very sweet too. And well, then really Rocko's the one trying to tell Ed Bighead that if you lose your house, doesn't really matter, but you can't lose having a relationship with your child. Just trying to convince him to accept Rachel. And then with the winds of change. Because so what's interesting, too, is to see how Ed is really, like, he's arguably worse than Rocko at accepting change. He's just so, like, needs a wake-up call. And Rocko, too, he's just seeking the comfort of what he once knew with the Fathead special. That's what really he wants. But with Ed Bighead, where he says, I'm suffering a case of TMC, too much change.
Yeah, they both are guilty of being resistant to change, as you said. Like, Rocko is holding on to something from 20 years ago, and I think Ed's so set in his ways, just being a successful executive at Conglommo, he doesn't want his things to change or his world perception. He liked things the way it was when Rocko was gone and he was the big cheese, and everything just changing at the drop of a hat. It just kind of put him in this defensive sort of I can't deal with this anymore stage. And I kind of feel bad for him too, because he's just so deflated and just like defeated on the roof there. But I'm glad they both got the talk, and the winds of change kind of slapped some sense into them. But real quick, just a random other gag I just wanted to point out with the Choky chicken being like super skinny now, non-GMO, organic, free range. I loved that little honestly
update too.
I'm surprised they brought back Choky Chicken, because I remember, I think they got a little nervous with that in the first couple of seasons, and then the latter seasons of Rocko, it became Chewy Chicken, and this was before I understood the reference to Choky Chicken. Like, oh my God. But I love that they brought that back.
See, it's such the irreverent humor that you obviously don't pick up on as a kid, but then, oh my God. Just that adult humor. It's fantastic, though. It's just so funny. But I liked also, too, with the Winds of Change, and all of a sudden he gets a phone call, and it's the Rocko's Modern Life theme song. Like, that was cute on his cell phone. Like, oh, sorry. Like, this cloud, this Winds of Change. So weird.
I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Which theme song did you like better, the old one or the second one with the B-52s?
I honestly always loved the original theme song, personally.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, nothing could be
that. Right? I don't know. I guess most people, maybe, I don't know, but it seems like most people liked the updated B-52s. That one's good too, but I just think for the tone of the show, the original was better. And then also, when they updated the theme song after season 1, they got rid of Rocko shouting, "Spunky!" Like, they got rid of that. Like, no, I liked it better the original. Yeah, definitely the original. Always, in general, original is best, but...
Gotcha. Hear.
Right? Yeah, but... So then, this is another criticism I have. When Rocko gets the phone call, the Winds of Change, it's like, oh, it's for you. And then it's Heifer and Filbert. And they're saying, oh, Rachel made the special, and it's airing right now. I mean, like 10 minutes, all of a sudden it's just airing tonight. Like, that was really fast. And also when Rachel, when she gets inspired to do the special, when she's reflecting on her childhood, and then all of a sudden she's just doing it, I guess she just did it overnight, making the special.
The magic of cartoons, school, right?
Yeah, right? You know.
What is time? What is...
But I liked in the crowd, there were a lot of old characters that we got to see again. Let's see, the Hippo Lady, Filbert's family, Heifer's parents, the Heck guy, like the devil from Heck.
With the
you saw that guy,
the Utterhead stuff. Did you see the Fruitcake Man? Fruitcake Man from the Christmas episode?
Oh, I didn't see him.
No, I think because I saw that episode more recently than a lot of the others. Like, I remember he's like this weird Santa character instead of Santa, and the scene he's in the Christmas episode, the kid just takes a huge bite out of his head.
Oh, really? Okay, I don't remember that. Ironically, that's an episode I didn't see when I was a kid. I saw it years later, a couple years ago. I first saw that episode. Yeah. I was surprised. I hadn't seen every episode of Rocko's. I have since now, because I have the DVDs. But yeah. So then, oh God, and there's the part where that old turtle lady, which that is, if I remember correctly, was that Filbert's grandma, or was that Dr. Hutchinson's family? I forget now. But then she gets electrocuted with the phone. I was like, jeez. And the foot guy's like, oh, that's too bad.
Did you catch with the foot guy, his drink was just a sign next to him?
Oh yeah, I'm like, jeez. See, all these little gags, they're fantastic.
Beautiful. It never stopped.
Yeah, and so then when Rocko comes with the drone, and then just takes Mr. Bighead in the sack of the potato sack, and then Helper's like, oh, you brought potatoes? Like,
yes.
No, it's Mr. Bighead. Oh gosh. And then everyone loved the special, but Rocko's unhappy with it because it's different. Again, still, he's refusing to accept something different because there's a baby fathead, and he's just not happy with that. But I absolutely loved the moment with Ed getting all teary-eyed, and then Rachel getting all teary-eyed, and they finally reunite. That moment was so absolutely sweet.
That hit
Father
perfectly.
And daughter, that was so beautiful. That was very heartwarming. And then Bev too, that was just so sweet. I loved that. Just really, she just loves her parents, Rachel. I loved that so much.
Perfect. I loved it so much.
Yeah, and then I loved Ed's speech, where first the Winds of Change was going to tell Rocko, and then he's like, I could take it, weird cloud guy. And then he says, we can't live in the past, we can be grateful for it, but life isn't permanent, and if we don't embrace what's now, we miss out on a lot of important stuff. That's just definitely a timeless message.
Yeah. It was on point. The message, it wasn't preachy, but it was so relevant, so meta, but so so true. I felt that it was meta, but it was relevant, and it's true. It's a great message for both adults and children. And it's good that it was Ed that said it too, as opposed to any of the other characters.
That's true, because he had his his awakening and his realization. So that was you're right. That was absolutely perfect with that. And then this was a criticism I had But now rewatching, I guess it's not as bad. But just when Rocko was like, he's like, but, and then he just sees everyone all happy. He's like, well, okay, I guess change is okay. To me, that seems like just really like he just accepted it on a dime. But I guess that worked with Rocko because he always just likes seeing people happy and together, and so like that works with him too. Just touching on the emotional aspect of it, that everyone's happy, so he's right. He might as well embrace this new O-Town, this new life, all this change.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have a choice either. And if someone is like bigoted and like stuck up as Ed Bighead can change, there's hope for us all. So, I think Rocco's a pretty easygoing guy. I think he just had to have it hammered over his head for 45 minutes before he finally accepted change as a good thing.
That's true. That's maybe another criticism I have, too. The fact that since this was originally made for Nickelodeon, they would have had the commercial breaks. But then I wish they had known before for Netflix and they could have made it as long as they wanted to, Because then it was like the strict 44 minutes to make room for ads. Like, then it could have been more relaxed, could have been an hour long or whatever. But, I mean, it works, obviously. They obviously just have, like, the story, but... I'm always like, I want more.
Yeah, I think the length actually was perfect. I feel like if even if it was like an hour long, like an extra 15 minutes, I don't know, it might have been. Well, they might have been able to flesh out Filbert and Heifer's story a bit more. I feel True. Another criticism, they're kind of brushed to the side. Like, I'm actually surprised there's so much big head in this film. It's like
that's true.
Rocko and Charlie Adler for most of the movie.
Yeah, calls out Rocky and Charlie Adler, because Charlie Adler plays Bed and Bev, and he plays the boss too, right? Yeah. I think he does. Yeah, I thought so.
He was very busy this episode.
Like, right? Oh my gosh. That's too funny. And Carlos has Rocky, because he describes Rocko as like the Winnie the Pooh character, like the calm in the eye of the storm. Mm-hmm. But then ironically, it's like everyone else just accepts change easily, and then he had to really learn and come to accept it. And it worked. And he did, so that was good.
Yeah.
And I liked also at the end with, what's his name? Filbert saying, like, oh, I hope to meet my 5 lowest subscribers, and then Dr. Hutchinson saying, you can, and then you see his grown children, and then just the one Heifer lookalike, oh my god, because, I remember that episode when Heifer sat on the egg, so he's like, oh my gosh, just so weird.
I loved that callback. I really didn't think they were going to talk about Filbert's family, but the fact that the wife came back and they showed the kids as adults, and then you remember, 20 years have passed, they won't be kids anymore.
They're in their 20s now, I guess. And then 2 of them are doctors. One's a cat, like the mom, she's a doctor, and the Heifer lookalike one is a doctor too now. That's great.
And one was in like a scuba gear and something, like 2 other ones had different
and then the other one, they were interesting, the 4 kids, but that was great too. And then I didn't care for the ending joke, the button with the guy in space. I was like, oh god, no, that Mr. Dupet guy, like, oh god.
Yeah, wasn't my thing.
I didn't care for that. But overall, though, I mean, it absolutely captured the quality of the original series. It just felt like, as we said earlier, it just didn't miss a beat at all, even though 20 plus years has passed since the original show ended. I mean, I would love to see more Rockos. I don't know if I'd love to see another season of it. I feel like they have so much they can touch on with everything nowadays, since the show is always so topical and exploring consumerism, all of these just relatable things about modern life.
I agree. I feel like they ended it in such a way where if we had no more Rocko at the stage, I'd be fine, because I didn't expect to get another 45 minutes of this 90s cartoon. But also, they can expand more. I'd love to see more of Rachel. Like, I find it interesting. Yeah. I'd wonder if even maybe there could be like a friendship, or Rachel and Rocko could have more of a connection together, because I remember like when they were trying to convince Rocko to come and see the show, Heifer and Filbert were like, oh, Rachel's here, and that was kind of like the impetus to him wanting to come and see the show, but also see his favorite cartoonist. And so I'd want more of that. I'd want to see if they're gonna maybe do something else with the whole conglomerate. Maybe they wanted to retire Mr. Dupet if they continued it and do something with something else. We could see more of of Heifer's family now that like the grandpa's a ghost. Like what's his adopted brother and sister doing?
Yeah. I agree. There's definitely so much more to explore. And Joe Murray has said that he's open to it. So, I mean, you never know. We'll see. We'll see, I guess.
So I wonder who would be responsible for that, though.
Yeah.
Would Nickelodeon have to greenlight, or since it was sold to Netflix, would Netflix have to take the helm?
I know, right? That's a good point. Because same with, I don't know if you watched the Invader Zim special, because that moved to Netflix too. So yeah, since we could touch on, I know we were discussing a little bit with the Jungle movie and how that one, they didn't, I mean, people are still hoping for a season 6 of Hey Arnold. For me personally, I will say I think the Jungle movie resolved the series of Hey Arnold perfectly. I personally don't feel we need more. I'm sure Craig and everyone would do a fantastic job. It's just, I think the way that special with that TV movie, the way it ended, it was just perfect of resolving the whole thing with Arnold finding his parents. And with this, I feel like there's more to explore with the Rocko special. That's just my 2 cents with all of that.
Yeah, that's where I kind of grappled with my thoughts between the two movies, in that the main difference between Rocko and between Hey Arnold, Rocko really had no impetus or no incentive to return, but because Hey Arnold had ended on a cliffhanger with the journal, it was necessary for them to bring it back, if only to close the loop on that. So, and while I do think they successfully did satisfy that cliffhanger and close up the mystery of what happened to Arnold's parents, I think the Jungle movie special, had inadvertently opened up some other threads that, while they didn't need to be closed, it just left sort of an unfinished, unresolved thought in my head. For example, Helga's relationship with her parents. It was implied and it was suggested that Helga's parents were neglectful or preferred Olga to Helga, and straight up ignored her. And in the movie, I feel like they doubled down on them just being on Team Olga and not at all caring about Helga, even when they panicked and realized Olga was in trouble. Miriam says this thing like, "Oh yeah, and the other one." And so I'm kind of, because even like if you think of the end of the movie, Arnold has his parents, Arnold's happy, Helga's still essentially homeless, living at Big Bob's Beepers. So it's still kind of a sad, sucky end for her side of the story, even though she's with Arnold. So that kind of nagged at me a bit.
Interesting. I didn't consider that. And also, I mean, just to touch on reboot culture, since obviously that was very meta with this special too, and the fact that there's just, reboots are so much more prevalent than ever. There's so many Nickelodeon reboots on its own, plus Disney reboots. I mean, also Rugrats is getting rebooted, which I feel is unnecessary. I love Rugrats, it's my all-time favorite Nicktoon, but I feel it's unnecessary. I'm excited for it, but I mean, I know it's not going to be as good as the original, like anything, not as good as the original, but it's just, obviously, it's always banking on nostalgia with these reboots in particular. Then, just to touch on the Zim one, I feel like I didn't do that. It was very much its own thing. But really, with this too, and with the Jungle movie, I feel like they all stand on their own too, though. I feel like they didn't rely on nostalgia. It was its own story with the Jungle movie that needed to be resolved. With this special, with the Rocko special, it was being topical about all these new things in life now. Here we are in 2019, so that's why I would really like to see more, and just with more of these characters and touching on all those things that you had said earlier with their families and everything. Because also, I mean, you would think that Rocko would be more concerned about, like, oh, let me call my parents, let them know I'm okay after all these, you would think. I mean, but he's just concerned about the fatheads. He just was very one-track mind with this, Rocko.
That became his obsession, his only reason for being. So,
oh my gosh, I know.
It only makes sense, I guess. But yeah, so, probably should give a little shout out to his Australian parents and say, I'm alive, I'm not dead, things are good.
So, with all that being said, what would you rate this special out of 10?
Out of 10? Okay. There's a lot of good going for it. It's not a perfect movie. And I think some of my criticism has to stem with me watching this now as a 30-something woman, as opposed to being like a 7-8-year-old child. So it's pretty faithful to the series, almost to a detriment, because it still retains a lot of the bodily humor, really, really big man's nipples, the winds
Yeah,
of
oh my
change,
God,
farting, fart jokes. Like, it's on point. Like, it's not Rocko without those kind of weird, kind of bodily humor jokes, but they don't quite hit the same way when you're full grown adult. It's like, that's kind of juvenile, but hey, like, I was a juvenile when I watched it. Also, Charlie Adler, love the man to death, extremely talented to be doing 3 separate characters for this special, maybe even more in the background that we're not aware of, but there's some scenes where it's literally just Charlie Adler screaming at Charlie Adler, and it's like, it's a bit much. It's a bit much. So, and yeah, it's a loud, very energy packed special, which is perfect for a kid who knows of Rocko's Modern Life and has seen all the stuff on Nick Splat and Nick Rewind and is watching the special now. But as an adult, it's like some of these things that I like 100% loved about the show as a kid, a little grating as an adult, and that's just with time, and that's just with change, I guess. And so I have to knock at a few points for that, but again, the way they handled Rachel Bighead, the way they got the message out about change without being too preachy, all the little inside jokes and gags, and seriously, Nosy, the raccoon, the Oprah, like she's from one of my favorite episodes of Rocko's Modern Life.
Which episode?
Which one?
Yeah, which episode?
I wrote it down. It's like On Speaking Terms. It's the one where Heifer and Rocko aren't speaking to each other, and it's because Rocko's birthday was forgotten, but you're only getting the story from their perspective. You never actually know what happens, and I love the fact that she has such a prominent role. Like all of that, like all the love and care and the animation and the voices and the story in that condensed 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it, let's say, I don't know if I should go whole numbers or points. Let's say...
You could do whichever.
Let's say 7.9. I don't want to give it a full on 8, but it's like a high, like 7.9. It's worth watching, especially if you're a Rocko's Modern Life fan. I highly recommend it.
I agree, yeah. You know what? Interestingly, so just... going off of just my enjoyment, I loved it all the way through, and it left me wanting more, though. I was like, I want more Rocko's now. But just, even with the little story criticisms that I have of it plot-wise, overall, I loved the theme of accepting change. I loved Rachel, like you said. I loved the fact that even though it's updated with the animation, they still had the pencil backgrounds, which is fantastic. That was really cool. They got to do that. And then even though it's updated for HD, but... to me, it just felt exactly the same, the animation. I loved that. And again, the voice acting I thought was great. I mean, I don't know. I didn't mind Charlie Adler, but, you know, that's all right. With Bev and Ed, with him. But I love Rocko, though. He's a great character. So just for my overall enjoyment, believe it or not, when I first watched this, and now maybe again, I'm thinking I'd give this a 9, a solid 9. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. It's just... as I said, captured the tone and everything that we as fans loved, or appreciate, I should say, now as adults about this show. Because I will say, when I was younger, I watched this show when I was really, really young, like 4 or 5, like really young, and I didn't really care for... I would watch it, I just didn't really like it that much, even though, ironically, I loved Ren and Stimpy when I was really young, and that show is far worse. With this show, just real quick, I always was freaked out by, like, the big, bulging, veiny eyeballs. That always would freak me out. And they did that in the special, too, that classic over-the-top animation, but I love it, so... things you remember about this show. But I just loved the special, and hoping for more, I really am. I guess we'll see at this point.
Wouldn't be a bad thing. Not at all. I'd embrace it if they decided to do another season.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sylvie, thank you so much for joining me today to discuss this special. It was just absolutely wonderful. And please let everyone know where they can find you on social media and, of course, about your podcast.
Yes. So, my name is Sylvie. I like to preface that before, in the past, I had a podcast called the Vacant Lot Podcast. There's no longer a website, but if you go on iTunes and just Google Vacant Lot or Hey Arnold Podcast, I guess I would be lesser of the two Hey Arnold podcasts. The other one's a bit more structured and philosophical, but if you like just someone rambling for an hour about Hey Arnold, I'm your girl. But now I'm currently doing another podcast, Sylvie Soul Writing, where I talk about the creative process. I do interviews with people who have creative attachments to fandom and express themselves through the lens of fandom, as well as just talk about writing and the writing process in general. So Sylvie Soul Writing Podcast is the name of the podcast, but you could find that on my website, sylviesoul.com, SylvieSoul. And you could also find my blog there, and just keep up with me on Twitter, on Sylvie Soul Writer on Twitter. So those are a lot of my social media channels for what I'm doing online.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, I've checked out both your podcasts. Highly recommend to everyone. If you're
you,
a Hey Arnold fan, check out Vacant Lot, and if you're a writer, definitely check out both. They're awesome.
Thank you.
So thank you so much again, Sylvie.
It was a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Of course. And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. You can follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Storytelling Saga, as well as on Twitter at Storytell Saga. You can also send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by leaving me a message in the contact section of storytellingsaga.com, or by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next week is the 1-year anniversary of Storytelling Saga, and to celebrate, I will be taking you behind the scenes of the podcast. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.